Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, B'Shem Yahushai, double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to the elect. B'Hashem HaKodash, my name is Jacobo from Plaintables Camp. And you should already know there's a ceasefire for apparently 2 weeks, but I believe the Israelis are still going to bomb Lebanon. They're still bombing Lebanon. So they're effectively at war with Lebanon. They don't have sufficient military to fight back, or they're letting them bomb them. I don't know. They're some of them look like Edomites, so there might be some mixing going on there. But it says U.S.-Israel agreed to 2-week Iran ceasefire. Iran claims victory. Both sides are claiming victory. Let's listen in.
Half away from that deadline, President Trump seconds ago taking to Truth Social to say that he has talking to Pakistani officials, and based on that conversation, he will agree to stop bombing for 2 weeks. He also says that Iran has agreed to open the Strait of Hormuz for that time period. So I'm going to read part of this to you. It says, he says, subject to the Islamic Republic of Iran agreeing to the complete, immediate, and safe opening of the Strait of Hormuz, so they still have to agree. I agree to suspend the bombing and attack of Iran for a period of 2 weeks. This will be a double-sided ceasefire. The reason for doing...
Right, so United States and Israelis, Edom, a.k.a. Edom, Esau, is attacking Iran, which that fulfills partially the Ezekiel 38th chapter. All right, now what has to happen is the Russians are going to guard Iran. That fulfills the rest of the prophecy about being a guard unto them.
Doing so is that we have already met and exceeded all military objectives and are very far along with the definitive agreement concerning long-term peace with Iran and peace in the Middle East. We received a 10-point proposal from Iran and believe it is a workable basis on which to negotiate. That's also news, Jake. Almost all of the various points of past contention have been agreed to between the United States and Iran, but a 2-week period will allow the agreement to be finalized and consummated on behalf of the United States of America.
Now remember, they were in the midst of peace talks before, and Israelis and the United States attacked Iran. So with ships going through the strait. So like, what does that even mean? They could do the same thing again.
America as president and also representing the countries of the Middle East, it is an honor to have this long-term problem to a resolution. So a couple of things that we're going to still be asking questions about. What is in that 10 proposal? What has actually been agreed to? And I will go back through that language because I said that Iran had agreed to open the Strait of Hormuz. It does sound as though he's still leaving it there as that he's only agreeing, if that is in fact the case, that they will fully open the Strait of Hormuz. This, of course, again, coming as President Trump has been threatening to wipe out an entire civilization, saying that he was going to bomb bridges, to bomb civilian infrastructure, saying at one point that the Iranian people wanted him to continue bombing. And we knew behind the scenes that there were ongoing conversations, negotiations between the two parties, Pakistan was serving as an intermediary between the two countries at various times. Senior White House official telling our Elena Treen that Israel is part of this ceasefire, that they have agreed to suspend its bombing campaign while these negotiations continue. Now, of course, we don't know where that ends. We don't know if that's for 2 weeks. It's not specific, but Israel is part of this starting point, which is this ceasefire. So all three sides are participating. At least that is according to a senior White House official. Now, back to what your point is about the 10-point plan. I mean, we've been hearing about a 10-point plan from Iran for weeks now. The idea was that the United States presented a 15-point plan, that several of the points on that plan, Iranian officials were saying were unrealistic, they were impossible to meet, and they came back with their own plan. We are still at a loss as to what exactly was in that plan. What are the actual points? What exactly is the U.S. now saying that they are willing to work with? President Trump had gone back and forth on the idea idea of reopening the Strait of Hormuz. Clearly, he has focused on that as a top priority after last week saying he didn't need to reopen the strait as part of a deal to end the war in Iran. So whatever it is, Iran is likely to have said long-term the free and fair passage through the Strait of Hormuz, because that is something President Trump just 2 days ago or just yesterday said was a top priority.
Breaking news, Iran's foreign minister just responding to Trump's ceasefire announcement. I want to read part of it to you. He says, if attacks against Iran are halted, our powerful armed forces will cease their defensive operations for a period of 2 weeks.
So you can see how Iran is looking like the good guys, you know? Iran is looking like the Persians are looking like the good guys, because everybody sees that they're being attacked by Israeli and American forces. Edom. All right, so the devil's attacking the Persians, or Elam. So the scripture that came to mind immediately, because, you know, things are going to happen and then things may die down. And 2 weeks, you know, you might look at that as nothing. But scriptures say, Luke 21:9, but when ye shall hear of wars and commotions, be not terrified, for these things must first come to pass, but the end is not by and by. And we look up commotions. I'm always interested in the word commotions, akata and instability, state of disorder, disturbance, confusion, instability, disorder, commotion, confusion. Yeah, like, okay, is Iran supporting terrorism across the region, as I've been hearing since Obama? Is he the number one sponsor of terrorism? Are the Americans? Well, we know the Americans and Israelis are definitely the number one sponsor of terror all over the earth. That's not even it's not even a debate. Since 1492, you know, before that. But that is the spirit from this precept here. Wars and commotions. All right, and obviously you got the war because they're throwing missiles at each other. And they're having economic blockades. It's about money. At the end of the day, it's about money. All right, they want to conquer each other over money. While the Americans, Israeli, they want to make Iran subject because of money. All right, it's about money and power.
Safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz will be possible via coordination with Iran's armed forces and with due consideration of technical limitations. Obviously, those words are crucial there. And the Supreme National Security Council of Iran has also issued a statement that I have here, and I'll just share you a couple of the important lines here. One of them is that the regulated passage through the Strait of Hormuz under the coordination of the armed forces of Iran, thereby conferring upon Iran a unique economic and geopolitical standing, which sounds like, in a translation, Iran saying that they see this as acknowledgement that they control the Strait of Hormuz. Let's go to Zachary Cohen, our national security reporter here. Zachary, what are you learning about this? We're just getting these dual statements, one from Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi and also from the Supreme National Security Council that I just shared part of. What else stands out to you here?
Yeah, Aaron.
Okay, that's CNN. You can go watch the rest of it if you want. I put in Ceasefire. And here's what smart people are saying about Trump's ceasefire deal with Iran. Let's just skim through that real quick. That's crazy. President Donald Trump Tuesday announced 2-week ceasefire deal with Iran, extending negotiations to the end of the war if the country agreed to reopen the Straits of Hormuz. What smart people? Well, I probably could have been clickbait too. Bishop wrote that the advisory firm takes this stance because, Bishop wrote in a research note sent to Business Insider that as of now, our base case remains President Trump is likely biding his time before a larger offensive rather than genuinely agreeing to the end of the war term. Yeah, that's actually a good analysis there. I think it's pretty much what everybody says. And Iran is like, okay, well, we need some time to re-up their offenses also. So, and that's it. And President Trump's ceasefire with Iran draws praise from world leaders. Okay, that's plan. It's not Trump's ceasefire. Well, whatever. Depends on your perspective. All right. They both saying they reached certain goals, but look, Ezekiel 38 is going to come to pass in full fruition. So they have to continue to attack Iran, whether it be 2 weeks or a month or a couple of months. Eventually, the war is going to reignite and continue.